Okay, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to Iasa India, the chapter which has recently started about 8 to 9 months back in active mode as of today. We conduct a couple of webinars every month in terms of the 5 pillars of Iasa. The last few of them were focusing in terms of business technology strategy, in terms of understanding business, in understanding IT environment, the integrated collaborative environment, and also in terms of how to bring business value, to name a few. Today we are going to focus on two subjects. One is on the governance, the other is more in terms of the project portfolio management. Looking at the timeline and the number of people who are attending from the governance side as well as from the project portfolio management, I have decided actually, if it goes well with you, that I will have a brief introduction about the governance, but I'll go in depth into more of the areas related with project portfolio management. We plan to conduct in a fortnight from now a detailed presentation on the governance in IT. Not that I will totally avoid it, because governance is the beginning as to why and how projects must get implemented and how they can bring the architectural maturity to the business table. So let's start with it, and once again I welcome all of you to the webinar. Thanks for your time as well. At any point of time, if you have any questions, please shoot at me using either the questions or the chat provisions, and at the point of time when we have a milestone or a section change, I will be eager to answer you. So, looking at the agenda today, which is governance and project portfolio management, they actually are related to the two of the 5 pillars. The first and foremost of them, the human dynamics, and the second is IT environment. The governance part is more related with how effectively we can continue the architectural maturity model and the continuum. So coming to the governance, I will go in a brief on the governance for the first 5 to 7 minutes. I would like to acknowledge a couple of the entities here, which have given a very good enlightenment, and some of the slides have originated from one of them or either of them, a combination of them in terms of analytics or in terms of projection. So I would like to acknowledge these entities who are doing pioneering work in enterprise architecture, governance, and project portfolio management. Just to have a glimpse at some of the governance areas that we would look at it in a fortnight, it basically covers some of the maintaining business value at an acceptable level of risk. That's what is a statement before we start governing any project or a architectural entity within an organization. And to do this, we need to have the measurement of business value and also manage the communicate the value delivery from our teams, which are in technology to business as well. So obviously, some of the presentations which I have done in the past couple of months, this is a continuity in terms of how we do the governing. So if you are very familiar with some of the process maps which relate to project implementations, one is the aspect of strategy, and the other is the aspect of implementation. Once the completion of such a strategy and a related implementation, either a program or a project or a particular element of it is complete, then it gets into operationalism, and we definitely have the customer, which will be end customer, which will be using, as well as your business, which will be related with that of what you deliver. So that's the kind of overall business process map which can give you where exactly the governance fits in and where exactly the project portfolio management fits in. So we do have multiple project managements happening and related maybe with some of the products that we give to the end customers, and we have projects handling some of the development life cycles related with such products. That's the blue lines. The other was in terms of correlating with that of the strategy of the enterprise to meet the end business value. We have project portfolio management trying to assess how these products that are in offering in the organization based on the business strategy or the IT strategy, the way we are going to implement is going to be handled. So if I can segregate, there are two aspects to this, which is very important in this business process map. One is at the time of strategizing. As in the previous webinars, I have made it always important. Understand the business strategy for which you need to provide a value delivery. And that is a strategy that you need to meet. And towards that strategy, you will have multiple products that are essential for the organization to meet the customer. So I did show the cutting edge paradigm wherein we have a scissor with one lever as the customer, the other lever being the product. And to cut, we need to meet the customer and the product needs with a supply and demand reduction and the reduction in the governance and process map. So that kind of a strategy is being managed here for the products to meet the end customer through a project portfolio management. And that's one aspect of strategy. Once you strategize, you implement certain components of it, wherein you have individual projects or programs, you will have development life cycle, and these programs either directly or indirectly help in the product management of the organization to meet the customer. It can be in terms of billing a customer for a product given or maintaining a customer relationship for meeting specific segments and provide rightful product strategies to them, or a supply chain in terms of how you build your internal products through your vendors. Or it can also be in terms of how to channelize your products to the end customer. It can be a web strategy, it can be mobile strategy, it can be simple ATMs in some of the banks. So these are the things that as a project, as a development team, through a life cycle, you develop to meet the product that is in demand by the customer, or you are creating a product where you expect customers to come as a need. So this is the second aspect of implementation. Once you strategize and you implement, then you need to operate. And that's where the governance comes in terms of operations. So in one of the third webinars that I had in terms of bringing the integrated collaborative environment, I had specifically mentioned that the operations it has to be modeled as well. So you have a business model in which your organization works, and to meet that business model, you will have an operating model, corresponding operating model. And in that operating model, you may have your support systems helping you, you may have your technology helping you, you may have your human resources helping you, you have an environment or a geography or market dynamic that you will be sailing along with. So these are all operational models. So the operation will definitely be covered under specific model for meeting that particular strategic objective. So that's in just where the governance falls, where what we spoke about the strategies come in, and how the project portfolio management fits in. But that's about it, but I will be jumping on to the project portfolio management. I will discuss the governance part of it in a couple of weeks' time. It might be 2 weeks from now, so I will keep you posted on that on the Iasa website. Give me a minute. I'll jump to I'm doing this primarily because the time constraint which we have, 1 hour, and the second thing is in terms of number of people that I expected from governance was definitely unable to make it today due to various reasons. Okay, So we come to the project portfolio management, and I explained it just a couple of minutes back. It is more in terms of managing the strategies that you have, the architectural landscape that you have originated or created to meet that strategy, which is primarily a value to the product management aspect for the customer, or maintaining your customer, or a product, or your supply chain, or your market dynamics. So obviously this project portfolio management is very important in terms of a continuum. That means to say it's not just like one single project where you have a specific set of requirements, you develop it, you test it, implement it, and you start operating it. It's not, maybe there will be some change management techniques there, but here in the project portfolio management, the change management is more in terms of the changes to the strategy as well. You need to accommodate changes to the vision and mission of the organization at that level. Any changes in terms of how IT strategy meets the business strategy. Any changes in the business model, specifically domains that you are related with within the organization. And also in terms of the processes that are a part and parcel of the enterprise. So that's the beauty of portfolio management, and it does align closely the company's strategic objectives. Now, why do you actually need a project portfolio management? Just in simple bullets, we can say we can align sources which do the work to meet the objectives, build an IT governance structure, and that's something which is important because you're going to complete a process-centric approach towards your strategy, and you need to continually govern them for any changes that may happen, as I just spoke a couple of minutes back. Ensure proper execution, maximize the investments, reduce the number of redundant projects, which are basically we do have a decision making here in terms of if the projects that are running within the organization are not strategically meeting your value or your objectives, you need to take a conscious call as to times have moved on. Of course, I have invested quite an amount of money into this. Maybe I can reuse some of the portion or components of this project, but I think it's better that we move on at this point of time than we complete this, which is going to be meaningless to the business community. So that's setting expectations as well, and also help in developing an IT plan and IT budget for the complete overall programs. So obviously, who basically will be taking part of the financial group, the HR group for resources. You will have the CTO's office coming in, the CIO's office coming in for its IT and its people. You will have vendor portfolios that you need to manage. You need to ensure procurement and management of proposals, submissions, and vendor selection, product mapping. So these are all a part of the portfolio management group. Now, if you look at enterprise architecture and you relate portfolio management, now we have been speaking as we strategize and create an IT roadmap, which is part and parcel of enterprise architecture, which looks at the business values, the strategies that are essential, aligns the IT requirements to it, and deliver business value of IT. IT portfolio management basically covers that integral part, which is essentially a clean share of what is essential for the moment in a continuum for the community of IT to meet at any given point of time. So the basics are the chart of the scope and the benefits. Is a systematic management to large classes of items. It can be, we are calling it items, the applications that we have, the data that we have, the technology that we have, the invested infrastructure, plenty of ongoing projects. So these large classes of items are being managed systematically. And also in of a portfolio management to quantify previously mysterious IT effects. Say, for example, I'm specifically taking a bank. They have been striving hard in the past 8 to 9 years to implement a core banking solution. Now, where has all the efforts been counted? Still, they haven't actually reached the point where they wanted a core banking, but the market has moved on. The geography has changed. The product portfolio that is essential for the bank to meet the customer requirements have changed. So obviously, the portfolio management will look at what has happened, what are the learnings, how will we enable measurement of such things in future, and bring an objective evaluation of the investment scenarios. That's the charter of IT portfolio management. Apart from that, we need to be very clear as to the scope. Obviously, it doesn't cover everything from, like today the insurance people claim for a car, from bumper to bumper. It's not that, it's not so. It is projects for technology enablement. It's not specifically information technology. Please note, projects for technology enablement or any supportive endeavor needed for business. Business systems and applications such as applications, and software and hardware infrastructure, similar that are the technology portfolio, and an investment for development, operations, and infrastructure, which is your IT environment. So if you look at the scope of what we are trying to cover today, is more in terms of IT environment, and we are looking at human dynamics within it. And what are the benefits? We will have a central oversight, how much has been spent or being spent towards a specific business value. You will know the returns of investment here. You will also clearly state the risks in terms of either financial or technology risks, infrastructure, or the vendor, any security threats within your architecture. So this risk is being managed within the portfolio. There is also the third bullet, which is very, very political as well. In terms of strategic alignment of IT investments towards business vision. Now today, if you look at it, let's take a case where a company has predominantly been taking some consulting or guidance from an IT vendor in terms of improving its internal capability to deliver to business. It may have been a conflict of interest, and you have realized through the charter and scope that, well, things have moved on and we may have to move into a different mode of operations. So we need to strategically align such IT investments, make use of it without just walking out of such relationship towards a business vision and business value of IT at any continuum. I keep repeating this word continuum because it is a cyclic tendency of work. Where there is a change or where there is a need for change in your business, there will be a change to your architectural delivery model. Where there is a change in the architectural delivery model, you will have to change your items within your portfolio. And that's where it comes in terms of strategic alignment. You need to cover demand and investment management, obviously, coupled with that of bullet 3 and bullet 1, and looking at some of the standardization, best practices, and some of the governance and the standard approach that enterprise architecture frameworks or project portfolio management frameworks or the corporate governance comes in. So you standardize your procedure, rules, and plans so that at any given point of time, you should be able to operate effectively. Let's move on into a more indicative picture where the portfolio management, what it does it cover, how does the program management expand, and what's the project life cycle. So it's very, very clear from this picture that we have 5 different aspects within IT portfolio. There will be 4 different aspects within the portfolio. One is a program management. The other one is a project within the program. You have solutions within projects, or it might be cross solutions across projects for a program, and certain platform management. So when it comes to overall architecture management, it is the portfolio management which is to be involved, including the solution and platform management and architectural management. Whereas the program focuses in terms of how individual programs get initiated, executed, and implemented. So the end benefits realization is a part and parcel of the portfolio management, whereas the strategy formulation and also the enterprise architecture roadmap or the IT roadmap that the organization needs to establish being a part of the portfolio management endeavors. Coming to the portfolio, it's more in terms of aligning of technology to business needs, as I spoke. So this is just a summary of functions of portfolio and program and a project, benefits realization, and investment management and risks. Whereas a program completely focuses in depth into delivery of a specific release with communication programs including change management. And what does a project have? It has more in terms of the deep-rooted tracking of functionalities that the project has to deliver, selection of specific tools, and cross-use of these tools across programs and portfolio, and give specific focus in terms of process development, implementation, and support. So these are the three clear, function-wise segregation of what a portfolio management, program management, and a project management cover. If there are any questions, kindly shoot at this point of time. I can answer as I proceed in my discussions. Thank you. So going further, excuse me, how do we manage this IT portfolio? What do we focus on? In terms of portfolio management, a portfolio director will be in charge who will specifically look at the investment benefits, risk analysis with the team, portfolio scope definitions, how you manage your knowledge across that particular portfolio set, and the business value management is very, very important. The fourth bullet being why we exist at all to manage the portfolio. While keeping the business needs centric, the programs are related with the portfolio and also with reference to a chief architect at enterprise level directing the portfolio and the program management to deliver. So the chief architect may be having a team of enterprise architects or solution architects, and in one of the banks that I work with, we had an enterprise solutions forum which had enterprise architects as core team, solutions architect of individual programs being associated with that of the solutions forum, so that we will be able to look at those 6 bullets that are under the chief architect's role in terms of every program or a project getting aligned for a business need. While the program management office will focus on comprehensive planning, change and risk management, release management as in based on that of the IT portfolio sequences that are being defined at the time of the initial scope definition. The portfolio scope definition will have prioritization of projects, programs to be executed, and there might be a huge gap if that doesn't follow. Supposing you have a customer relationship management solution being implemented, and there is also a channel, let's say e-channel, a mobile strategy or a web strategy to go with the delivery of your products to these customers. Now, why these two projects are interrelated is because it was strategized that with a change in the way we handle customer, we will be able to communicate effectively both about products and our strategies through these channels. So it's very important that the channel gets ready much before the CRM is rolled out. However, let's look at it, that it doesn't happen. You have a CRM which is completely ready to be rolled out. Unfortunately, you don't have the channel yet ready. What do? What decisioning will you take in terms of releases? Will you go with the existing channel and deliver the new changes when a customer may even laugh at you? Look, you don't even have e-channel if you're talking about internet banking. So that is a very, of course I gave a very offshoot example here. It doesn't normally happen, but in some of the cases I've seen almost similar examples. So it's very important in terms of release management, vendor management, delivery, especially collaboration between business and IT, which is very centric to the program management as a focus. Okay, so now next what we have here, we have a hierarchy setup. As I spoke in terms of the previous slide, wherein the main focus is actually a business need, and we are trying to bring the portfolio together to deliver through a enterprise architecture team. So we'll have a steering committee. It might be a IT steering committee, a portfolio director, a chief architect being directly reporting, and each of the releases of portfolios having solution architects or enterprise architects within their spectrum. They may indirectly or directly communicate that with the ITTP program directors, IT transformation programs, and different project managers, but they all binding the enterprise solution architects and platform architect, the chief architects team, are centric in terms of correlating your day-to-day project work from being executed towards a particular business value and a return of investment. If you further go in terms of who will be the accountable role in terms of the portfolios, the release portfolio is accountable for the sponsor, the lead directors. The role is actually the role with which the release portfolio managers work is in terms of sponsoring and leading and directing, and they are accountable for business and IT alignment. They are also accountable for TCO, value and risk management. And the management support comes in terms of a release steering team that we have seen in the earlier slide. Whereas a program guy, program director will be more of a business sponsor, program director accountability, and for benefits enablement and realize it. Ensure that there is a benefit that is realized out of the program. And that's done basically by the management support through an operating function. Individual project managers and architectures, which we are very quite comfortable because I think this exists in multiple, but then the orientation of the release portfolio and the program in terms of what accountability, in terms of role, accountable for what kind of functions and who supports them is what is intended through this particular slide. Okay, so that's the basics that we discussed so far in terms of the IT portfolio management. Let's move on into models. We may have multiple models. We have a iterative model, or it might be a waterfall model, agile model. But in overall, if you look at the initiative, prioritization, and release planning process for strategy and roadmap, you have definitely the investment context comes from different business units. That's where the value actually finally goes to. So they have multiple business plans, and then the EA team, or the enterprise architecture team, and also the portfolio managers will seriously look at the IT needs essential in terms of identifying the functional capability gaps. And that's why it's very important, one, to adopt to frameworks, identify capability model, and then try to implement that using this portfolio. So where do we actually implement the capability, architectural continuum and architectural capability? According to me, it is through portfolio management. Unless you have portfolio management, no enterprise architect can ever be able to implement even a bit of a capability model within an organization. So that has to come along with the enterprise architectural alignment, which evaluates IT initiatives to balance the portfolio investments. And that's the initiatives, that is the prioritization, that's the IT strategy plan, which gets into a platform roadmap, and release definitions, calendars of commitment, what needs to be done, how to integrate releases, and the investment matrix. So ultimately, the integrated portfolio governance which ends up has to give feedback to business in terms of business and IT alignment, because that's where we started. We started with initiatives to meet the business plan, and the integrated portfolio governance should drive it. And some of the tools and templates that we often see in this spectrum of IT portfolio management are nothing but, baseline templates. Then you have prioritization worksheets, estimation model library, strategic technology map templates, and so on and so on, including that of these process management and service-oriented assessment checklists, which are part and parcel of the portfolio management templates. Now here we are actually looking at some of the, I'm sorry for the overlap there because of the change in template within my PowerPoint. It has actually overlapped on it. It's more in terms of, okay, let me just bring this out so that we are able to clearly see what it is. Okay, it's value-based governance process. We have been speaking in terms of meeting the business objectives, business values, to say the least. And that's why we exist as a portfolio manager to deliver. And how do we actually govern this? How does the gap in vision and execution or a complex engagement, how does the accountability and cross-line of business alignments which define the business context get translated into a business value? And if you look at it, the business, the overall value is being essentially because of the bringing in the element of enterprise architecture committee. And if you're looking at release management, how effectively they implement EAC and how supportive the IT steering committee is. In terms of organizational readiness, the steering committee must ensure that there is an overall enterprise alignment towards it. In terms of releases, it should stick to delivery assurance with quality. And before you start the implementation or development, the EAC must have provided solution maturity with a very defined transformation roadmap and aligned with that of the workforce alignment. So that's how the value-based governance process works. If you look at some of the organizational role play and what do they actually look at it, this particular slide gives you a glimpse of who might be a part of which kind of a team. Very clear, so that you can get back tomorrow into your project and see whether you have some of them, or it's quite holistic in terms of what the release director or a program director or a chief architect must have, either in terms of resources or skills or people who have ability to do this kind of work. So it's fantastic if you have this particular chart in front of you, go back and assess, oh, how am I doing portfolio management versus what Vinny is speaking in terms of it. This has been originally being shared between multiple consulting firms, and I tried putting them all together in one particular slide, which is of interest. By the way, this particular slide deck and the presentation is being recorded and will be available to those who have participated as well as those who have registered through the Iasa website to go to meeting and go to my webinar. So you don't need to really worry about actually writing down and then tracking this out or taking snapshots while actually I'm presenting. Let's move on. So if you look at the portfolio management in terms of the rest of other roles like the project manager, the quality manager, or the chief technology officer and technical officer and the AMS leads for maintenance, you have various skill areas and role play that one must have for an effective delivery of portfolio management, individual projects as well. Okay, I'm sorry for that. There's been some change in the template, so obviously there's overlaps. So speaking a little bit more in terms of lines of business, and then the relation with reference to as we do the work, the business must go on. The portfolio management makes a lot of effort. You know, this is correlation with that of that of. This particular slide has actually come out mainly because of one of the thoughts that people do have as an organization together with strategists is that while I build a new overhead or a highway or a flyover, how on an existing road or an intersection, how do I manage the traffic? I need to continue the business. So if you are looking at business as usual and the requirements and integration requirements cutting across these different lines, we have specifically the lines of business trying to help us in terms of the roadmaps and calendars of commitment, what they expect, anticipate based on their business plans. The financial management trying to help us out in that as well. The initiative planning and control actually provides the initiative list, the calendar of commitments coming there. From there, we actually look at mapping the solution development from that of the line of business roadmap. Obviously, the solution development, which is more project-specific designs and SDLC processes and all that, must end through a kind of testing mechanism wherein it is qualified that yes, I can go in for the implementation. And then operations and change management. You also have to have communication and training which is being set up together. So I can talk a little bit more in this, but it is more in terms of how you manage your continued business as usual along with the change management and how much of those waterfall or continuum will be. Okay, so some of the definition, with that we can come to the point of where we can look at some of the definitions. What is in an IT portfolio or release in an IT transformation program? What is a program initiative and what are the projects? So I think we did dwell on this a couple of minutes earlier. In terms of defining the scope as well, scope and functions of each of them. So it originates in terms of the definitions originate from that of the scope and functions. That portfolio will have a collection of programs or projects within them projects, either application or technology, which may not share, I repeat, I don't want to say which do not share, which may not share a common business case or objective. So you may have to segregate programs and projects aligned with that of business cases and objectives to meet the business values. So you have multiple different business plans. If you look at a couple of slides back, we did mention about various line of business engagements, each one having their own business plans. So we may have, from that point of IT needs, aligned towards individual business plans here. So it may not be a single business. So you may originate your program grouping within a portfolio based on a specific business plan, because and also you need to look at common initiatives that are essential for execution of all the business units or within the business units, some of the business plans. So that's where it comes in terms of correlating and managing the portfolio definitions. That's basically the portfolio function as well, definition function as well. And then we look at the program, which is actually with a common business objective. That's what is the intent of portfolio, to ensure that a program has a common business objective. And all the projects and programs contribute to business case definitely defined by the program. So this is a qualifier for a particular project being a part of the program. Otherwise, it can fall either way. So one has to be very clear there in terms of defining where this particular project falls into which kind of a business plan. As we know, projects is a very focused implementation effort for specific business and that's where we come to the functionality level. At the program level, we are still in the capability level, or the strategic capability that you're going to provide to the business. But at the project level, you'll be looking at functional depth and maturity within which will enable that particular capability. Moving on, I think this, to many of the technical members who are participating, it's very clear that we have a business solution platform such as CRM, okay, or it can be a supply chain. What's a technology platform? It can actually be a set of systems which are correlated in terms of a particular way the technology delivers value. For example, standardization help in aligning technology platforms, alignment to multiple technologies for specific needs. You may have a legacy which is not to be modernized as a technology. You may have open systems. You may have within them, you may have platforms which are specifically on J2E or .NET, and you have varied kicks. So the technology platforms, and it may also be in terms of systems and infrastructure, in terms of racks, or it might be cloud computing. You might have outsourced into a model which is specific to either of those mentioned here in terms of Microsoft or Oracle or open source. So these are the things which are technology platforms. And what's a business capability? It's a coherent set which actually means the strategic capability being met by the business to deliver to their customer. And it also shows how and what an enterprise does to achieve its goals, and while doing that particular goal, which kind of solutioning helps in it. So the capability, this is a business capability set which will be owned by the business function or a unit that we spoke of a couple of slides back, and either realized or digitized through a technology platform. It may have automated or manual activities, and that's where the processes come in as a set of activities or events, and functions through standardized interfaces. And that's where you have the orientation of architecture and environment helping you. So this is some of the things that help you, these two as definitions in terms of portfolio, program, projects, solution, platform, and capability. Not to the least the service and processes, which are everywhere quite important, but we forget in the run-of-the-mill the top 5 ones, which we discussed so far. We forget what's our business service, what's a business process. Is a business process defined by a technologist, or is a business service being highly maintained, centric towards a vendor? Or is it being defined as an internal strategy to deliver certain specific products or services to your customer, and a process to enable such services to be seamlessly being made available to the end customer? So these are some of the clarity that one has to have in running portfolios. This particular slide states in terms of definitions of what are services. Especially I like the idea of it is runtime managed for key performance indicators and service levels to achieve those. I like that very much, because ultimately you would have had a written documentation of what business capability it is, but then while running and implementing and operating, we may forget about the KPI and service level to achieve the goals, which might really contra the benefit of the service. That's very paramount. And in a process, it's end-to-end visibility that matters most within the business operation. That can be, very, very highly quantifiable in terms of your efficiency, how your company is operationally effective, and reduce the unit of product service costs and improve your profitability. And that's where, and also improve your customer partner relationship. It might be your vendor partner for your product, or it can be a customer relationship at a corporate level. So a business process is very important. I have a specific example where in an operational unit for a automotive concern, there was a change in terms of some of the operational unit software programs. And this particular software program, which was replacing the age-old one, had more process hops than that of the previous. The previous product was more integrated, so you have one particular user interface which fits most of the values, and you have one or two hop process. Whereas the new one was more on governance, validating information that the data is being fed, and there is more authentication, and there are more risk eliminating challenges which are being covered. But it went through 5 or 6 process hops. Now that's not very clearly articulated at a time of change management. And now the people who end users, they start complaining. Hey, look, boss, I could have done in my earlier system in 5 minutes, but this system is taking 10. But they're not realizing that your data governance has improved, your risk has reduced, you have improved approach to your end customer, and overall the success of that particular transaction will be higher than that of using the old process. This is change management issue. So the processes are important in terms of also highlighting some of the benefits which through the portfolio management one should be able to articulate. Okay, so now it goes into terms of some of the lower level deliverables and key activities of release leads and the program managers. I will this particular slide will also be made available to our members and those who have participated today. It will be available on Iasa website, and a link will be sent to all the members today. So I won't go full in depth into the key activities of individual roles that we have been discussing today. So we come to steps for a successful project portfolio management, which is, I think, the last set of subsections that we will try to finish in the next 7-8 minutes. Maybe take some questions. Okay, so far so good. Any problems in terms of audio or screen movement? Kindly let me know so that before we close the session, we can ensure that we can go through some of the other slides that you have missed and run through it again. Okay, so the steps in terms of most of these is gathering inventory of all projects. That's what portfolio normally speaks of, right? Inventory. And that's something that layman, if you say portfolio, said I don't need any of these because the inventory, I have an inventory tool which manages within my company. Okay. So it's a much done deal in most organizations today who are highly profitable will have a detailed inventory of all projects. But if you go back and see in the market, some organizations are still managing with vendor coordination or outsourced some of these inventory management across all projects, not the core competency they say. So it might also be outsourced inventory of all projects. But setting strategic objectives for the company, and that's where a lot of things have happened or happening in terms of like the internal business trying to set the strategic objectives, but it also needs to concern external market and also in terms of research that's going on, in terms of mapping that what's available as a product for achieving this, or what technology is available, especially in high tech and retail, media. Some of these are new in automotives, for example, in terms of the business intelligence that it goes into the model which is more successful in a particular geography kind of thing. So the strategic objectives of the company change definitely depending upon the approach that the company has, but this is a very important step and must be done, and decisions taken by the business strategy owner, the one who decides what his business plan is. This person will actually look at the profitability for the company or the way forward with this particular strategy. So the most responsible person, him or her, in terms of strategic objective, but they may take external consulting or market vision while setting these strategic objectives. Once that's done, you translate that to your enterprise architecture team, your business strategist, IT strategy mapping with that. You identify a set of gaps, capabilities that you need to address, realign some of the projects, and that's where the portfolio and enterprise architecture comes in the third step. Align projects with objectives, score and categorize projects. Again, we are still in project portfolio, but the success of the program management and also the projects go very well with the score and categorization of projects, especially because the sequence with which it needs to be handled, the delivery objectives, the business plans that it needs to meet. This is highly complex step wherein score and categorize the projects for their importance for bringing value, and that's where the IT plan and budget falls. And last but not the least, of course, is to actively manage the portfolio. Some companies with project portfolio management, complete inventory of current request projects. Now you have some of the tools as well. You know, I have done extensive work in terms of using MEGA, and I found that's very interesting because it starts with the portfolio management. It has ability to actually look at what is your portfolio, your incomplete inventory, and align it with that of your business necessities, and provide you a matrix of which is more important, which is not important, and what is really missing. And that gives an enterprise architecture foundation for IT roadmap. So with the APM done and the EA architecture being defined in the second module of MEGA, the third one actually looks at how do you manage the risks and compliance. So they have three modules, and so if you have some time, you can go through the MEGA website and see the demo of some of these things which speak in terms of portfolio management, how it leads into effective and value-driven enterprise architecture, and subsequently helping governance and eliminating risks and being very compliant. So this is some of the things that we very important in terms of inventory management. Just not outsource, because you may not exactly get the right real-time information as to what kind of systems you may need to change to meet your business end. So we're going a little bit elaborate in terms of the 5 points that we discussed a couple of minutes back. So who does it and how it is being, what is the operational model is what these slides are showing you. Why do you need this strategic objective? What initiatives need to be done? How are the projects going to be executed? So the brainstorming and the guys who may be involved are all internal. You don't find Gartner, KPMG, you don't find external consulting, you don't find an enterprise architect coming in here for strategic objective, but more in terms of the CXOs, the business plan owners, and those who define the business profitability. They take part in this. Now going further, we do have the third step, which I said is an operating plan. This one, basically the third step has been in terms of meeting. Sorry, I just missed that slide. Let me go back. Okay. Yeah. The third point was aligning projects with objectives, and that was where we have to have a kind of need from this set of objectives, what brainstorm they have, and take inputs from this, and moving to the alignment of the projects. I just give a pause here. Okay, what we spoke earlier was in terms of ensure your grouping of programs and your grouping of internal projects are centric to a specific business objective or capability, so that it is simpler for execution, implementation, and change management. Now, once you align those projects in that way, It will be easier for specific lines of business to manage, and it will be that much easier or make it simpler for business IT relationship to grow better. Because at the end of the day, the only fight that I have seen in over last 5 or 6 years of my involvement has been the CIO and the CDO sitting across, business heads speaking, saying, I don't know who's doing my CRM project. I find there's some guy coming from project 1 and asking for inputs from my team. There's another guy who is coming in a couple of days later and asking for some other inputs related with the same. How does this happen? And that's a mess. That's a mess. It makes complex to understand the existing scenario at the project level once the capability has been clearly defined. You go at the project level, the project analysts are unsure as to what they have already and what they're going to improve for. What is that? So multiple projects not aligned to specific lines of business and their capability being or the objectives being met, it's a mess. I think going forward it should be that there are specific set of objectives that are being met, capabilities mapped, and then you have a set of programs created, a program having set of individual projects which make sure that you have business functions enabled. Then it will be that much simpler to take any of the business requirements or discussions with business in one go within a program, and if needs, the portfolio can actually arrange across program if it is going to be beneficial to most of the lines of business or a single line of business, whatever. So it is always better to align projects and run the show. I think I'm taking a little bit longer in terms of aligned projects because I think that's one of the things that are very important in terms of ensuring a success of implementation. Ultimately, you will see the effort of this at the time of change management, at the time when you actually release, and you will find, oh my God, it becomes so simple for us because aligning projects is essential because one will know the width of the enterprise that needs it, not specifically the line of business. It might also, because of these discussions and alignment of projects, there might be benefit in terms of eliminating redundancies of earlier projects or earlier programs which are running within the organization to do the same. So it is very, very, very niche as to look at the alignment of projects. And also you have to store the projects. Store in terms of how they are running, how do you validate, how do you actually measure their growth, status, and so that it's like it is very easier for the business to understand where and how they may have to make changes to their business plan. Let me go a little bit faster in terms of the slide. Okay. So one of the governance that is essential is in terms of portfolio management, a steering committee, as I spoke in a couple of slides earlier, which gives a direction as to how important it is to bring in a governance mode chaired by the Chief Information Officer, and who is obviously the one who is going to take over the operational side as well. And this is a ITSC which consists of some of the strategists who have worked towards why this project at all, and we have a CIO who is responsible for delivery and some of the heads. So this brings in a business direction or sense of a need for that particular portfolio or program or a project to be effectively directed. That's more important. Some of the quarterly reviews. There's one thing that I wanted to say before we close this today's discussion on project portfolio is in terms of many hurdles that we have often seen when we work. It might be as a team that's basically the dynamics of human interface or human machine interfaces, the complexity of the subject matter, the skill, the the timely requirement of ramping up and down the process overhangs within the organization, and making others understand through effective communication, and the packages that you either bespoke develop or purchase from vendors, how and the tools that you manage for use for managing your portfolio, and the time that is essentially you are running always against the time, which makes these hurdles make seriously many people who are running project portfolio management run out of hair on their head. They get bored very easily, they get stressed too easily because there are multitudes of this happening every day in and day out. And these hurdles are exactly the reasons why we should adopt a process-centric portfolio management that we discussed today. With effective team management, making simple, that is to meet a specific business objective or a business plan, we are delivering a set of projects within a program handled by a portfolio. And we have set of tools and we have set of skilled people who are working towards it. And there is a timeline for implementing and ensure that the business plans do not change, especially because technology could not deliver. I mean, that's something that I'm very, very good to see in the next future generation of IT architects help businesses achieve. Any questions, please? And that brings actually to the end of our webinar today in terms of IT portfolio management. So if you have any questions, please shoot at me. Otherwise, you can also send me a communication to email ID. My email ID is vijay@isahome.org. You can send that to me, and it will be fantastic to get in touch with you and see what we can improve within this webinar. And definitely I will send out this invite to all of you again for continuing our other part of the module, which is governance, and which is very important as well. I'll wait for a couple of minutes more before we stop the webinar from recording. And thanks once again to all the attendees for patiently being there as a part of this webinar and sharing the time with me. Thank you very much and have a very nice day. I'm signing off.